Welcome back, boys and girls. Today we're going to talk about the witnesses to the Book of Mormon. When Joseph Smith received the plates upon which the ancient record of the Nephites was written, he was told by God never to show them to any man unless God commanded him to. And so, for a long time he kept it within a sack or under a cloth, even when around family members. But eventually the Lord told Joseph Smith that 11 other men would, along with him, bear the burden of testifying of having seen the gold plates. These men are known as the Witnesses of the Book of Mormon.
Mr. Stickman, can we have a word with you for a bit?
Yeah. What is it, Mr. Anorexia?
Well, you see, we were wondering if...
You totally didn't have us in the last video, and already you're starting off without us in this one. We have contracts, you know.
What are you talking about? I let you two do the semi-improvisationalized soundtrack to the last video.
Wait, stop.
What?
I'm not feeling it.
What?
I'm not feeling it. I'm sorry. It needs something else.
We've been at this for hours.
I know.
We can't just keep stopping every time you get a feeling.
I know.
It's supposed to be an improvised song. How are we supposed to call it improvised if we keep stopping halfway through and changing what it is?
Let's just call it semi-improvised.
Semi-improvised? Semi-improvised? Who does that?
Senors, are we going to finish this recording session today?
Please?
Yes. I'm sorry. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, Schmo. We got it. It's good. We've got it.
Okay, from the top, senors.
Well, yeah, we got that. But we didn't get any FaceTime.
Besides, I don't think Schmo did a good sound mixing job. There are moments in the video where you can totally hear what you're saying over how amazing our voices are.
Right.
So what do you say, Mr. Stickman? You gonna let us on screen this time?
Yeah, Mr. Stickman, you gonna?
Oh, okay.
Woohoo! Alright.
Well, let's begin. The first thing one sees within the pages of the Book of Mormon after the title page and introduction is a page that has on it written testimonies of two groups of witnesses to the Book of Mormon. The first being the testimony of 3 witnesses, and the second being the testimony of 8 witnesses. On the page immediately following is the testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith. These 12 men were the only men fortunate to physically see the golden plates from which Joseph Smith translated the Book of Mormon, and each offered his testimony to the reality of the record's existence and the truthfulness of its message. And though many of these witnesses over time lost their faith in Joseph Smith himself and left the church, none ever denied their testimony of the Book of Mormon, but rather reaffirmed it constantly throughout their lives.
But who are these men, and what are their stories?
What did they see, and why did they stand by their testimonies, some after living outside the LDS faith for over 50 years?
First, we will look at the 3 witnesses, Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, and Martin Harris. The 3 witnesses.
Martin Harris was a 46-year-old farmer, about 20 years older than either Cowdery or Whitmer. He lived in the same town as Joseph Smith when Joseph Smith found the golden plates. He had a reputation as an honest man among the town members. Among all the witnesses, he could be considered the doubting Thomas, requiring a lot of evidence before being persuaded that the plates were real and had gospel truths upon them. First, he inquired of his wife and daughter as to whether or not the Smith family members were good, honest people.
Yeah, they're okay.
Then he questioned the various members of the Smith family separately on separate occasions to see if their stories agreed on how Joseph Smith acquired the plates. After being satisfied that events occurred as the family explained, he desired to hold the box that had the plates within them to see if they had the heavy weight of metal. Tap, 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 clunk, clunk, clunk. As he became the scribe for Joseph's dictated translation of the plates, he took copies of the symbols and their translation to a learned linguist to have a translation verified.
What does that mean?
He even switched Joseph's translation stone with an identical one he found to see if Joseph Smith would still be able to translate.
Look over there.
Switch, bonk.
I didn't touch that.
Joseph couldn't translate the word. It wasn't until the experience recorded in the testimony of the three witnesses that doubt was completely replaced with knowledge, and Martin Harris from then on witnessed of the book's origins and truthfulness.
Oliver Cowdery was the second witness to enter the scene. He was a school teacher who for a while boarded with Joseph Smith's childhood family sometime after Joseph Smith and Martin Harris had already begun the translation of the plates. He was accepted as an intelligent and honorable man by the community. While living with the Smiths, Oliver Cowdery came to believe Joseph's story and desired to help. He became the main scribe for the Book of Mormon translation and became an important person in the early days of the newly formed church.
Then there was the third witness, David Whitmer. He was one of 5 brothers who became witnesses to the Book of Mormon. Like Oliver Cowdery and Martin Harris, he was a trusted member of society all through his life. The Whitmers aided Joseph Smith as they could in the completion of the translation and publishing of the book, and the first meeting of the new church was conducted in their home. What they witnessed. As the translation of the Book of Mormon was coming to a completion, the 3 men became aware of a prophecy set forth in its pages, that 3 witnesses would be called to testify of the truthfulness of the book, and would be able to see the plates. Hoping to be the ones who would fulfill this role, they asked Joseph Smith to ask the Lord if it could be so.
To which they received an answer in the affirmative. But just prior to the actual event, Joseph warned Martin Harris that the Lord required of him to humble himself in preparation of being a witness, most likely in reference to his levels of doubt.
The 4 of them, Joseph Smith, Oliver Cowdery, Martin Harris, and David Whitmer, soon after went into the woods to pray for the promised opportunity. At first nothing happened. Martin Harris came to believe that the reason the Lord did not answer must have been because of him. He left the group and went a ways off to pray for forgiveness. Once he had left, a vision began. An angel of the Lord appeared, and held before them the plates, and turned the pages in his hands before the gentleman.
Wait, I wasn't done with that page yet.
The angel then told them that the record on the plates was a true one.
Well, when this vision concluded, Martin Harris had not seen it. So how did he become a witness?
Very simple. After this experience, Joseph Smith went over and joined Martin Harris, who had been praying for forgiveness, and the 2 prayed together, and soon after received the same vision repeated again. In great joy, Martin Harris said of the experience, "'Tis enough, mine eyes have beheld," and shouted Hosanna as he praised God. His weak faith had turned to a solid testimony of the Book of Mormon.
And so they penned the testimony now contained in the beginning of each copy of the Book of Mormon, and signed their names to it.
The 8 witnesses. Later on, 8 other men had the opportunity to see the plates as well. Instead of a heavenly vision, Joseph Smith showed them the plates himself and allowed the 8 witnesses to hold them and to turn the pages themselves.
Wait, I wasn't done. So the 3 witnesses had a spiritual vision, and the 8 witnesses had a more natural world setting. As a result, the 2 different kinds of experiences support each other. Should one be skeptical of visions, there is a normal real-world witnessing. Should one question the simplicity of the real-world experience, there is a more majestic manifestation to back it up.
And witnesses of both events affirmed that they happened and were real, and neither denied their testimony even when bitterness and hatred came into their lives, when they fought against Joseph Smith and abandoned the young church.
These witnesses were as followed. The Whitmer brothers, including Christian Whitmer, Jacob Whitmer, Peter Whitmer Jr., and John Whitmer. Their brother-in-law, Hiram Page, Joseph Smith's father, Joseph Smith Sr., and 2 of his brothers, Hiram Smith and Samuel H. Smith. After de-witnessing, all of the Whitmer brothers left the church eventually, and none of them ever returned. David Whitmer himself became quite a successful businessman in Missouri.
Welcome to Whitmer's store of awesome stuff. Hey, I want some awesome stuff. You want awesome stuff? Yeah, here's some awesome stuff. All right.
But even in this state, which had been hostile to Mormons,
So hostile that an extermination act had been written into law to destroy the Mormons, David Whitmer never denied seeing the angel with the plates. At one point, there was even a story in the local paper insisting that he had, and in response, he wrote a proclamation printed up stating that he had never modified his written testimony. And with this document, he added another signed by 22 political, business, and professional leaders of Richmond, Missouri, stating that they knew David Whitmer and knew him to be a man of the highest integrity and of undoubted truth and veracity.
Oliver Cowdery also left the church and became a very successful lawyer in Ohio and Wisconsin. For a full decade he lived without the gospel and for the most part said nothing about his testimony. He never repealed his written testimony, but he didn't publicize it either, especially while in the courts. But on a certain occasion during a case, his opposition, attempting to cloud Oliver's credibility, pointed out that Oliver Cowdery was one of the witnesses of the Book of Mormon, implying that since he was no longer a member of the religion, his testimony must be false, and therefore he wasn't a reliable, honest man. However, the often silent witness testified in the courtroom that what he had said before about the vision being true was still true today. Some years later, Oliver Cowdery returned to the church and was rebaptized, and about a year later died with his testimony still being that the vision was true.
Martin Harris also left the church, possibly due to a feeling of underappreciation, as he never held any large appointment within the church like many of the other men.
Nobody loves me.
During this time away from the church, he tried many other churches, never settling firmly within any of them, and often rejecting several of their principles that didn't align with the beliefs he had already established during his time as a member of the LDS faith. Eventually, he returned to the church in Utah, and like Oliver Cowdery, died with a testimony of the Book of Mormon on his lips. It's true.
In conclusion, with all these men standing firmly to their testimony, no matter what, the question is not whether or not they were telling the truth as they knew it. Clearly they stood by it through the hardest times. No doubt these men spoke honestly. And so the only question is whether or not such proud, honest men, who were often opinionated, extremely skeptical, and one might even say a little ego-driven, could be deceived so easily and so completely to the point that they feared damnation more than a simple statement of doubt.
Only you can decide your own feelings on this subject, so we're not going to tell you how to feel.
But we suggest you read the testimonies of these 3 witnesses and the Book of Mormon, and pray about it to arrive at an answer for yourself.
Because, in the end, your own testimony can only come in the same way it came for these men, through divine communion with God. Whether it be something as remarkable as a vision, or as simple as a feeling of comfort from the Holy Ghost. If you want to learn more about the witnesses, check this book out, called Investigating the Book of Mormon Witnesses by Richard Lloyd Anderson. He's a pretty cool guy, and his book is pretty cool too. Until next time, bye-bye everybody.
La 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 la.
The end.